Is this the planet Earth or some distant alien planet? These trees seem impossibly huge. Here are the 15 most giant trees on planet Earth. Number 10. Chiwat Giant. The Chihuahua Giant is a western red cedar, the tallest tree in Canada. It's near Chiwat Lake, which is in the Pacific Rim National Park Reserve on Vancouver Island and dwarfs everything around. The tree was first discovered in 1988, and it now measures 182 feet tall, has a diameter of over 20 feet, and has almost 16,000 cubic feet of wood, enough to produce 450 telephone poles. Luckily, it'll never be used for that purpose because it's in a protected area created in 1971. This was deemed necessary because, on Vancouver Island, at least 87% of the old-growth forests have already been logged. If measures weren't taken, all of the others, including the Chiwat Giant, would have been chopped down too. Number 9. Wisteria. Wisteria trees are some of the most in-demand plants around the world and are native to China, Korea, Japan and parts of us, while you might typically see them growing in backyards or creeping up house walls. If they're cared for properly, they can become enormous. One of the largest in the world and certainly the most spectacular is the Ashikaga Flower Park in Japan. It's 144 years old and now covers an area of about half an acre. The vines that hang from the tree can become so heavy when in full bloom that it's not able to support themselves, so a network of steel pylons is required to allow them to flourish like this. The canopy is simply stunning, and when sunlight shines through, it illuminates everything beneath in a warm pink and purple glow, making it one of the most popular botanical attractions in the world. Number 8. Tane Mohuta. Hidden within the Wairua rainforest on the North Island of New Zealand is a tree that's not only huge but has a deep spiritual significance for the local community known as Tane. It's named after the Maori forest god and is the most giant known kauri tree in the world. It's just under 169 feet tall with a girth of 62 feet, and people travel from far and wide to get their chance to see it for themselves. Many experiences a form of spiritual realization in its presence and often become so overwhelmed that they start to cry. This species is scarce due to deforestation in the 19th century and dieback disease, an easily communicable rot. To prevent risks to the Tane Mohuta, visitors to the forest must hose down their shoes and ensure there's no soil on their clothing before getting close. A series of walkways have been built around it to prevent guests from accidentally damaging the roots. Number 7. Bhutan Cyprus, also often known as Kashmir cypress, is a species of evergreen conifer that's endemic to Bhutan. They're a famous garden center tree, and in home environments, they often grow to around 50 feet tall, but in the wild and in the right conditions, they've been known to grow up to 3 times this height. There's a claim that one growing in the Himalayas is as tall as 312 feet, but its location is secret, and this is yet to be confirmed. They have scale-like leaves that are blue-green in color, and they are increasingly becoming rarer due to the local demand for cypress wood. The trees also have profound religious significance in Bhutan, where it's the national tree and, for centuries, have been planted around Buddhist temples and Sahara monasteries. Number 6. Juggernaut. Esser-Vim, which grows in the Evergreen Forest Reserve in Tasmania, is the world's tallest mana gum tree and is part of a group of similarly tall trees in the region collectively known as the White Knights at just under 300 feet high. It's the tallest of all of them. Still, the existence of the entire group is a surprise because, before their discovery, the species was only regarded as a comparatively small one. There were initially plans to cut them down in the 1930s and 40s, but the logging company decided it would be too difficult to remove the wood from the region. Later in the 1970s, a road was built to facilitate their removal, but the decision was made to save them because they were found to be so abnormally high. The forest reserve was created in the surrounding area specifically to prevent any further attempts to fall them. There are now beautiful trails throughout the forest to allow hikers to see the White Knights for themselves, and a boardwalk has been controversially built around the entirety of the reserve to protect its roots from visitors. Still, some feel that it looks like the tree has been handcuffed into place. Number 5. Juggernaut, also known as Grogan's Fault and Spartan, is in the Jebediah Smith Redwood State Park in California at 460 feet. It's the 9th largest tree in the world but holds the record as the tallest known single-stem coast redwood. Amazingly, it was only discovered in 2014 after a concerted drive by the California State Parks Foundation to map all of the trees under their jurisdiction. An aircraft was hired that was fitted with lidar sensors and flew across the parks to scan the terrain below by measuring 85,000 points every second. It took several years before the Juggernaut was fully measured, and as well as the enormous height, it was found to have a width of 27.37 feet and an estimated volume of 42,158 square feet. Number 4. Tennessee Treehouse. When some people see a tall, solid tree, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's ideal for building a treehouse. There are some incredible structures around the world, but for a long time, the tallest tree with a place in it could be found in Crossfield, Tennessee, and it was a grand structure. It took a local called Horace Burgess more than 11 years to complete, and by that time, he had finished the 10-story house that covered an area of 10,000 square feet and dwarfed the 80-foot-tall white oak tree that it was built around inside. There was everything you could want from a house and plenty more. The structure included a sanctuary, a basketball court, countless rooms, spiral staircases, walkways and balconies. A further 6 nearby trees were used to add extra support, and Burgess also built a chapel inside, which he used to officiate 23 weddings. Astonishingly, all of this was created at just $12,000, and most of the material was acquired from scrap heaps. It took 258,000 nails to hold everything together, and the treehouse became a popular tourist attraction. Sadly though, it wasn't meant to last. It was forced to close to visitors in 2012 because it didn't adhere to building regulations. In October 2019, a fire raged through it and burned it to a crisp within 15 minutes at the famous Minister's Treehouse off Beehive Lane in Crossville. With no on-site electricity and no storms in the area, the cause of the fire was thought to be suspicious. Still, no investigations have been launched to find out the truth. Number 3. Rainbow Eucalyptus. One of the most stunning trees for their appearance is the rainbow eucalyptus. In the right conditions, they grow surprisingly tall and native to the Philippines, Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. They've been exported worldwide and are now grown in a range of different environments because there is no other tree that looks anything like them. Their trunks are covered in vibrant colors, which occurs because of how they grow. They can reach up to 250 feet tall with a trunk diameter of as much as 100 inches, and they can reach this size relatively quickly. This fast rate of growth results in the periodical shedding of strips of bark, and this is when the colors of the inner layers become revealed. Streaks of greens, reds, oranges, grays, and purples can emerge almost as if it's been splattered with paint. One of the most fantastic rainbow eucalyptus specimens in the world can be found on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. They were imported in the 1920s in an attempt to help control soil erosion and to regrow the forest that had been cut down. The environment proved to be perfect. Some roads are now lined with them, with individuals growing more than 200 feet in a surreal and incredible sight. Number 2. Sumamera. The Amazon rainforest is well known for its rich biodiversity, and it's not just animals that thrive here. Because of the climate, there are an estimated 390 billion trees from as many as 16,000 different species. They grow in very few ways to reach the heights of species found elsewhere. There's one exception to this, though, called the Sumamera. It's a species of kapok tree and is by far the highest in the rainforest, growing to an average height of 200 feet. There are likely specimens that become far higher, with the current record standing at 252 feet. It's an incredibly fast-growing species and can raise tens of feet per year, so what may have seemed like an average-sized tree a few years ago may now be the tallest in the rainforest. We'd never know about it. Their trunks have a diameter of around 10 feet and are one of the most easily recognizable types of trees in the Amazon basin. They tend to grow on the floodplains of the rivers mainly because when they're growing, they need vast amounts of water and nutrients to sustain their development. Number 1. Hyperion. The giant redwoods that grow in California are, by some degree, the tallest trees in the world. There are a large number of these giants throughout the state. Still, one that eclipses the rest is known as Hyperion. First discovered in 2006, It has been measured and verified to be 379.1 feet tall and is in a remote region of one of the Redwood National and State Parks. However, its precise location and details have been kept a secret because there are fears that publicizing this information would encourage people to visit and potentially damage it. Thought to be somewhere between 600 and 800 years old, it contained as much as 18,600 cubic feet of wood. Still, it's unlikely to hold its record for much longer. Evidence suggests that woodpecker activity at its peak has prevented it from growing any further in recent years. With countless other trees vying for its crown, it's only a matter of time until another giant is found that'll take the title. Subscribe to Amazing World for more, and check out some of our other popular videos.